Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Ellsworth, and today we're going to be talking about the first lesson in chapter 2, which is integers. So we're moving into integers. And so integers are just whole numbers that are either negative or positive. And so let's go ahead and get started with our first lesson. Okay, you need to take notes. Take out paper right now. You need to take notes, and I'll be checking it off tomorrow. Okay, so pause this until you get your notes ready. Okay, a scuba diver is diving at a negative 130 feet. Here it is. Okay, at the same time, a hiker is at the top of a cliff at 130 feet above the surface of the water. So tell me, how is a negative 130 feet and a positive 130 feet, how are they the same and how are they different? Think about that for a second. Okay, so maybe you're noticing that, hey, this is 130 and this 130, that they're both 130 feet from the sea level. And that's true. Okay, both the diver and the hiker are 130 feet from the sea level. Now that's not necessarily a part that you need to be writing notes on, but just notice. I'll explain it more here on the next frame here, but just notice that we are talking about two different distances from zero or from sea level, and that they're the same distance. So both the hiker and the diver are the same distance from the surface of the water. The hiker is above and the diver is below. So how are they the same? 130 feet. How are they different? Positive and negative. Okay, so this is the concept that we're talking about, absolute value. So let's go ahead and write a couple of notes. What is absolute value? Okay, let me grab a pen here. Absolute value. Okay, that is the distance from zero. In this case right here is the distance from sea level. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out and look at a number line. Okay, so you will notice that the number line here, that it is, let me get a highlighter, that the number line is showing where 0 starts right here in the middle in this case, and 0 is neither negative or positive. It is an integer, but it's neither negative or positive. When you go to the right of 0, it increases in the number, and it increases in value as you go to the right. You know that all the time. Smaller numbers are over here, bigger numbers are on the right. So those are positive numbers on this side, and they're also positive integers. Okay? Negative numbers are to the left of 0, and you notice that they decrease in size, but really look at just the number. The number itself. The number itself, we're talking about absolute value, the distance from 0, okay? Like the number is 3, 4, 5, it's increasing. But this value is not increasing because it's getting to a smaller negative number. Okay, so we've got a negative number here too, and those are also called negative integers. Okay, and then there's also another term here too, opposites. So when you draw out your number line for your notes right now, go ahead and label it with zeros and positive numbers, negative numbers, or integers, and then show where the opposites are. Like in negative 2, it's opposite of positive 2. Okay, so let's look at this little guy right here, and he is asking, so opposites and absolute value, are they the same thing? And the answer to that is no. Okay, they're kind of related though, except for I don't know if we'd always want to say it that way, but notice that the opposites are the same distance from 0, and that's what the definition of absolute value is it's the distance from 0. So the absolute value of this 2 is 2. The absolute value, the distance from 0 for this one, negative, is 2. So both of these have a distance from 0 of 2. So that's kind of how they're related. Okay, so moving on, these are the type of problems that you'll have in your homework. And let me grab a pen here. Okay, so write an integer for each situation. Now, this says that the average temperature is 5 degrees below normal. 5 degrees below. So it's an integer, so we got below, so it's negative. Just think about your x and y axis. Okay, we've got these values here. Here's our y-axis, and here's our x. If you go to the right, you've always got positive values. If you go to the left, you've got negative values. If it's above or below, okay, so the y values up here are positive. Positive is above, and negative is below. Okay, just a little reminder. The average temperature of 5 degrees below normal is -5. You do not write a unit on these because they're asking for an integer. An integer is just this. It's a number and a sign if necessary. Okay, write an integer for this situation. The average rainfall of 5 inches above normal. That'd be a +5 or just 5. Either one is correct. Okay, so when we're talking about the bank, other situations will have these two terms right here. Withdraw is taking money out of the bank, so you're subtracting money from your account. Okay, and a deposit is when you're adding money to your account, so your value inside your account becomes bigger. It doesn't have anything to do with the money in your pocket. It has to do with that bank account. Okay, when you take money out, it's negative. You got to subtract it from the value. When you add money to it, it's a deposit. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Now you should be writing down these notes again, at least what I underlined here, 5 degrees below normal and a -5. 5 inches above, and how that would represent with a +5. So make sure you are taking notes on these. Now, number 1, you especially want to keep notes on it because that'll be an answer for one of your problems. Write an integer for each situation. Identify the opposite and describe the meaning. So this is more than just writing out what the integer is. Okay, so a bank withdrawal of $500. So we're going to write -500. That's what that is for an integer that represents that, right? Okay, it's got a second problem on here too. It says identify the opposite. Okay, the opposite of 500. Just look at your number line. Remember how we showed the opposites. Okay. Anyway, so it would be a +500, and I'm just going to write the positive there. You do not need to write the positive. Okay, and then it says describe the meaning. Well, it means the meaning of this thing. So now this would be a deposit of $500. Wow, that's more than just wanting just this. It's asking you to understand it and its opposite. Okay, 5 strokes above par. Par is when you're golfing. And so above means positive. So we've got a +5 again. Boy, I like that number today. And this is problem number 16. Make sure that you're taking notes on it. Okay, we're supposed to also write the opposite, which would be -5. And so what would this -5 mean? Okay, when it says describe the meaning, it means that you are 5 below par. Okay, so for these ones, they want you to write down 3 different things specifically. Okay, graph these numbers. Now, our book doesn't have us do this just yet, but I just want to make sure that you recognize the values. Okay, so when you draw a number line, of course, you need 2 arrows. Okay, and then you need to put down a few of these lines here so that you can at least represent where they're at. Okay, so 4, we'll plot that one, and then -5, and then 0. And that's all you do. You plot them right on the integer, not off of the side or anything like that. So if you're going to plot this one, just pause it right here and think, where would I plot these at? And you could even plot them on the same line if you want to save yourself some paper. Just make an X or something. Okay, so -2 is right here, +4, and a -5. These should be familiar to you. You should have done this in previous years. Okay, so I just wanted you to think about what the number line looked like before we talk about absolute value. When you have got an absolute value, you've got these 2 bars on it. Okay, that is enclosing this guy right here, and it's asking what is the absolute value of -4. -4 is right here, right? Well, what's the distance from 0? What is that distance from 0? It is 4. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. Okay? Here's the absolute value of -5, excuse me. So here it is. What's that distance? 5. So this is really just 5. So I'm going to draw an arrow down here. 5. Okay, you still bring down the minus sign, minus, and then the absolute value of 2. Negative 2. Wow, excuse me. Okay, so it's 5 minus 2, so we're going to make that 3. Okay, so you may think about these ones. Here's the opposites. Okay, what is the absolute value of negative 5? 5. What's the absolute value of 5? What's the distance from 0 again? 5. Okay, positive 5, same thing, same exact thing. What's that distance? 5. So you notice that what are you really doing is that you're kind of stripping off these bars and the sign with it. So it's the distance from 0. So, a shortcut is just recognizing that it has got no sign on it. It's just a positive value of whatever is inside of here, even this one. So lots of times students, they'll see these two and they'll go right down to negative 5 because they're thinking opposites instead of what you need to be doing. So I want you to pause the video right here and I want you to try these ones right here, and then I will put the answers on. So pause the video and check that out. I hope you got the same values. So the absolute value of negative 12 is 12, the distance from 0. Okay, and then you do each one of these absolute values separately. So 18, the absolute value is 18. The absolute value is 5. Okay, but don't forget that subtraction sign and subtract to get 13. Now you notice that this 3, and then it's got absolute value attached to it. That means multiply. Okay, so it's really going to be 3 times 4 because the absolute value of negative 4 is 4, and that equals 12. Okay, also in our book they ask you to compare. So these shouldn't be anything new, but I do have a number line down here. It doesn't go to all these numbers, but go ahead and try and compare. So go ahead and pause it and check it out. See how well you do, because this should be review. Okay, a reminder that I'll show you in class with this wooden thing that I have that helps remind this, but that when you read these, okay, this side right here is a greater distance than this side, so you read this as greater than, so you read them left to right. But notice that the negative 9 on the number line is right here, and then the negative 16 be further down here. So you'd have a negative 16 further down here. Okay, and so then this would be greater than. Sometimes we can turn ourselves around when they're the negative values, so beware. Okay, so we've got a negative 14 somewhere down here also, and a negative 17. So the negative 17 is smaller, so it'd be negative 14 is greater than negative 17. And then this right here is looking at some opposites. We've got negative 7 and a 7, and so of course negative 7 is smaller or less than 7. Okay, and then there are some problems like this one where you have to evaluate it. So this right here would be the same exact thing as 10 minus the absolute value of negative 3. So it's, oops, so it's going to be 10 minus, and then the absolute value of negative 3 is just 3, so it's equals 7. Okay, and the hardest problems I think that we've got in our problems is the greatest to least. I like writing least to greatest. So you know what these values are. Go ahead and write them from greatest to least and check it out. I think that the hardest thing on this one is that they are asking you to go from greatest to least instead of least to greatest. But greatest, we'll start with this side, it'd be 4. Oh dear, hang on. 4, and then the next one would be 3, and then the next one would be negative 2, and then the last one would be negative 10. Okay? So we're going to talk about these and have time to work on these during class. Sorry I talked so much on this video. I'll work on the next one not being quite so long. I'll see you in class tomorrow. Make sure you have your notes to present to me so I can check them off. Bye-bye.